Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. My name is Ujjvala Rasajna Dasi, and I will be presenting the Katha on the potency of Sravanam. Before that, I would just like to invoke the blessings. Om Ajnanatirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, potency of Sravanam. This will be the presentation today. So we hear that Sravanam is so important in Bhakti, right? Everything starts with Sravanam. Like if we take a day-to-day example, if somebody is sleeping in a very sound sleep, deep sleep, if we just ask them to get up with a murmuring soft voice, they may not really hear it. If we just go them and touch a little bit and try to wake them up, that may not work either, in the deep sleep especially. So we go to their ears and say, hey, get up, right? So Shravanam is like that for us, for the conditioned souls that are very much stuck in the modes, right? It's like sleeping deep in the modes. For us, hearing from the Shastra is like waking us up to the reality of who we are, right? And where we are from, and who we interact with lovingly with Lord Krishna. So all this information is given through Shravanam. And that's why Shravanam is so important and so essential and the very first step in the process of bhakti. So this Shravanam, where do we hear from? In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Tatvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshyanti te jnanam jnanina tattva darshanaha. One who had darshana, realization of tattva, right? Our real nature, and who has realization of the nature of the absolute truth. So who basically has the realization of the absolute truth, tattva darshana, they will be able to impart that knowledge to us because they are realized. Jnanina tattva darshana. So if we hear from those realized souls, then the potency of hearing is quite high, really high. It awakens us from these modes. And when these great souls, when they talk, what do they talk about? What do we hear about from them? So generally when they talk about Bhagavan. They talk about the Nama Mahatmya, how Bhagavan is present in the holy name itself, right? Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela. So the details of all these about Bhagavan, right? They talk about this. They give us the information about Bhagavan. And they also talk about the bhakti, the devotional service that can awaken the soul and revive our relationship with Bhagavan. Right? They instruct us how to do the bhakti, the essential elements of bhakti, that this devotional service should be undertaken under shelter. We should take shelter of a bona fide guru who is connected with the parampara, and then practice bhakti or devotional service under the shelter of that realized person with humility to a point where our service and bhakti gets flows uninterruptedly and unmotivatingly. So we hear all this from these realized souls, right? So they talk about Bhagavan, they give us information about bhakti, how to do the devotional service, and they give information about ourself, our current self, the conditioned soul, Jiva. Right? So Jiva is a Tatashta Shakti. So as Jivas, either we are offering devotional service or we are engaged in Maya. If we are not engaged in the service, by default, it means we are engaged in Maya. And that is because our very nature, the soul, Jiva Shakti, is in that marginal position. If we do not engage in bhakti, by default, we will be pushed into Maya. So if we voluntarily take up this process of bhakti, then we have no fear of being put into the Maya. Yeah. So that's the tattva of Jiva, Jiva tattva. It's a tatastha Shakti. And so we want to seek shelter in the devotional energy, so we are not subjected to material energy. Right? So that's the third point that we hear about from these great souls, Jiva Shakti. And then material energy, we hear that this material energy is an illusory energy. That energy or effect that makes us forget Krishna and that makes us not to serve Krishna, that's the material energy or illusory energy. So that kind of illusory effect that pervades the jiva, making it forget Krishna, is illusory energy. And the other aspects are time and karma. So these are all the aspects that guru or a realized soul would speak and a disciple would hear. That's how the Sravanam process goes on, and those are the contents of the Sravanam. Bhagavan, Bhakti, Jiva, material energy, time, karma. Right? So once we have all this information about who we are, where we came from, and how are we in bondage right now in these modes, and how we can be liberated from these modes by engaging in the devotional service. So by hearing all this information, we get an idea of where we are at and what we need to do. So that's the potency of Sravanam, hearing from a realized soul. Those are the contents. And now we will elaborate on what are the effects, these wonderful effects of Sravanam. So once we know this subject matter of all these, elements, what will be the effect on us? Let's see those things. So when we hear about these topics from the realized souls, our lusty desires get cleansed. And we get free from hankering, envy, and anxiety. And, 4 Kumaras, when they gave darshan to Pruthi Maharaj, they were saying, Asti eva rajan bhavato madudvishaha padaravindasya gunanuvadane ratirdurapa vidhunoti naishtiki kamam kashayam malamantaratmanah. They're saying, oh Rajan, you already have that naishtiki rati, that very difficult to attain attachment for the padaravindasya gunanuvadane, to glorify the wonderful qualities of the lotus feet of the Lord. You're already situated in that. And by doing this, vidhunoti, gets cleansed. What gets cleansed? Kamam kashayam malamantaratmanah. So that lusty tendency that is in the heart gets cleansed or washed away by having deep attachment to glorify the lotus feet of the Lord, the topics of the Lord Hari. So that's the powerful nature, powerful effect of Shravanam from the realized souls. And that's what the 4 Kumaras were telling to Pruthi Maharaj. And Narada Muni, actually, with the Prachetas, he was saying that this hearing the topics of Lord Hari, the Hari Katha, what does it do? It says, Vatrebyante kadamrishta trishnaya prashamo yatha nirvairam yatra bhuteshu nodvigo yatra kaschana. So when these topics of Harikatha are discussed, Trishnaya Prashamo Yataha, all the material desires, they are subjugated. And Nirvairyam Yatra Bhuteshu, the enmity between the living entities is gone. And Nodvigo Yatra Kaschana, there is no Udvega, there is no anger, no anxiety too. So this envy, anxiety, and Trishna of the material desires, hankering of the material desires, they are also gone by hearing submissively. So far, we have seen that the lusty desires are washed away, hankering, envy, and anxiety are gone. And then what else? Detachment comes. Detachment from this material entanglement. Yeah. So when Prithu Maharaj, when he has gone to the forest at the end of his, at the stage of Vanaprastha, when he has gone to the forest, he has done the tapasya, and he has gotten to a stage where he was able to hear the instructions from Paramatma. And then he realized that devotional service is the goal of life and dispels illusion even to yogis and jnanis. Generally, yogis and jnanis are considered advanced in their tapasya. But here, Prithu Maharaj's realization is, even to those advanced souls in their own way of tapasya, they need to be engaged in the devotional service for them to get out of the illusion. So that detachment comes with the devotional service. That illusion is dispelled with the devotional service. And this is the instruction Prithu Maharaj heard from Paramatma. Okay. Next one is deliverance. Dhruva Maharaj is beautiful prayers of Dhruva Maharaj. When Lord Narayana gave darshan to Dhruva Maharaj, then he offered his prayers. He said, Bhaktim muhu pravahatam tvayi me prasango bhuyat anantamahatam amalashayanam yenanjaso albanam uruvyasanam bhavatbhim neshe bhavat gunakadam ritapana mattaha. Dhruva Maharaj is saying, Oh Lord, all I need is Bhakti Muhu Pravahatam Tvayi Me Prasango, the prasanga, the association of those devotees for him, in whom Bhakti Muhu Pravahatam, their devotion is flowing. Bhuyat Ananta Mahatam, those pure devotees who has their devotion flowing out. And Amalashayanam. Amalashayanam is pure desire, pure goals, right? These pure devotees, their existence itself is so pure. And Dhruva Maharaj is asking for the association of these pure devotees from whose heart the pure bhakti is flowing. And what does that bhakti do when we are in association of those great devotees? Yenanjaso ulbanam uruvyasanam bhavatmim. So Dhruva Maharaj is saying, with that bhakti that is flowing from them, when I get that, I will be easily able to cross over this bhavatbim, this material ocean, that is ulbanam, It's terrifying. Uruvyasanam. It's filled with the miseries. So I will be able to cross over this material existence that is filled with the miseries by Neshe Bhavat Guna Kadhamritam Panamattaha, just by drinking the nectar. Bhavat Guna Kadhamritam, the nectar of the glories of your lotus feet, the Harikatha that is coming from these purified souls. So liberation is an automatic process when somebody is absorbed in this nectarian Harikatha that comes out from the hearts of pure devotees. So that way, Harikatha is giving the deliverance. Next, Dhruva Maharaj says that this bhakti gives detachment, the Harikatha. When we hear the Harikatha from these pure devotees, that gives detachment too. Right? How? Yetvabjanabha bhavadiya padaravinda saugandhya lapta hrideshu krita prasangaha. Abjanabha bhavadiya padaravinda saugandhya lapta. So the fragrance of the lotus feet. So these pure devotees who are carrying the fragrance of the lotus feet in their heart, when I get their association, prasangaha, then tena smarantyatitaram priyamishamartyam. Ye chanvada sutta suhrit griha vitta daraha. That attachment that a conditioned soul has for the family, for the children, wife, house, wealth, everything that is material, all that attachment and absorption in these temporary material things would be gone if we get the prasanga or association of those devotees who are carrying the fragrance of the lotus feet of the Lord in their hearts. So hearing from these pure devotees can give detachment too. So deliverance and detachment, those are also, they are the effects of Sravanam too. And more to follow. When we hear this Harikatha from the realized souls, it's just pleasing to the heart. Bhitasya kim na rocheta tavakanam samagamaha. Bhitasya kim na rocheta. Those people who are filled with fear too, they also get very pleased by seeing tavakanam samagamaha, by seeing saintly persons approaching them. So it's just a pleasing effect. Saintly persons always speak Harikatha. Right? And when we hear from them, it's just very pleasing. It's pleasing to those people who are having the anxiety and fear because of the effect of the material modes too. So even to them, it's pleasing. The Shravanam is pleasing. And Harikatha is not only pleasing, but also gives bliss to the heart. Ya nivrittis tanubrutam tavapada padma dhyanat bhavajjana kadha shravanena vashyat sabrahmani swamahimani apinadamabhut kim tvantakasalulitam patatam vimanat. Dhruva is saying, I don't need anything, my Lord. Yanivrittis tanubrutam tavapada padma, the bliss that is there, tavapada padma, in the lotus feet, dhyanat, in the absorption of the thought of your lotus feet, bhavajjana kadha shravanena vashyat, and the bliss that is there in the discussions of the lotus feet of your lotus feet, my Lord, by the pure devotees, there is so much bliss. And that's what I want. Sa Brahmani Swamahimani Apinada Mabhut. I do not want to merge in the Brahman. Swamahimani. And I do not want the Brahmananda, or I do not want to merge in the impersonal Brahman. What to speak about Antakasha Lulitat Patitam Vimanat? What to speak of the temporary pleasures that are given in Swargaloka, which would end anyway after the piety is gone, as if the aeroplane falls down when it runs out the fuel in the middle of the air. So I do not want any of this, my Lord. I don't want this material happiness of Swarga. I do not want the liberation. Right? And I do not want the Brahmananda too. All I want is Dhyanat Bhavajana Kadashravanena. I want to get absorbed in the narration of the glories of your lotus feet that are discussed by the pure devotees. Because there is so much of bliss in that. And that bliss that is obtained by hearing and getting absorbed in the glories of the lotus feet, that is incomparable and cannot be obtained otherwise, even with the liberation, or what to speak of the material enjoyment in this Swarga. So that blissful. And then not only it does cause the individual bliss when one practices bhakti, hears the Shravanam from the pure devotees, but the Shravana actually brings happiness to all, for the speakers and for the listeners, for everyone. The Shravanam brings happiness. Sangama kalo sadhuna ubhayesham cha sammataha yat sambhashana samprashna sarvesham vitanotisham. Sarvesham, everybody, even the hearer or the speaker, both, everybody gets the happiness vitanotisham. So that's real happiness too. And so those are some effects, and there are more to go. The wonderful effects of hearing the Shravanam. And see, this might be your realization too. When we hear from these pure, potent devotees, like Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas, the words of Lord Krishna, they become fully potent. And their message is very much relishable to heart and ear. And it increases our faith and devotion to the Lord. It also causes, it generates a lot of attachment for hearing and chanting. For the listeners, when they hear it, when they hear the kada from these powerful, potent, pure devotees, it increases our faith in the process, devotion to the Lord, attachment to hearing, and glorifying the Lord. So that all happens with the Shravanam, with the hearing from the pure devotees. That's amazing effect. If we just read on our own, our understanding is kind of limited to whatever we intellectually can understand within our own experiences. But when we hear from them, there is so much of transmission from their heart to ours. And there is so much transferred. Many elements that are conducive to bhakti are all transferred with submissive hearing with faith and hearing by taking shelter. In that submissive hearing, there is a lot that is transferred. And Prithu Maharaj also says that this Sravanam awakens the eternal relationship with Bhagavan. This is a beautiful one. That's a beautiful one. Not only does Sravanam increases our absorption in the guna of the Lord and Leela of the Lord, right? But also revives the relationship with Bhagavan. And he so beautifully says here, Sa uttama shloka mahan mukhachyuto bhavat padamboja sudha kananila smriti punar vismrita tattva vatmanam kuyoginam no vitarati alam varai. That's so nice. Sa uttama shloka mahan mukhachyuto bhavat padamboja sudha kanalila smritim punar vismrita tattva vatmanam kuyoginam no vitarati alam varai. Kuyoginam no vitarati alam varai. Even for people performing misdeeds with crooked hearts, kuyoginam. Even to those people, sa uttama sloka mahan mukhachyuta. When this uttama sloka, when the glorification of this uttama sloka of the Lord who is glorified with choicest words in the Vedas, that's what uttama sloka means. So when the glories of the Lord are heard from mahan mukhachyuta, from these mahan devotees, these Mahabhagavatas, pure devotees, from their lotus mouth, when these glories are heard, bhavat padamboja sudha kanalila. He says, those glories are, those words that come out from this pure devotee's mouth are like the particles of the dust from the lotus feet of the Lord, the saffron particles of the lotus feet of the Lord. So when we receive the saffron particles of the lotus feet of the Lord in our ear from the Mahan Mukhachyuta, from the lotus mouth of the Mahabhagavatas, the pure devotees, what happens? Smritim punar vismrita tatma vatmanam. Smritim punar, we revive our memory that we have lost. Smritim punar vismrita tattva vatmanam. It will revive the memory of our relationship with the Lord. Kuyoginamna vitariti alambarai. Even to those people that have wicked hearts. What else would I ask for my Lord? I want to hear from those Mahan Mukhachyuta, from those Mahabhagavatas. I want to get that saffron dust from your lotus feet through the mouth of the Mahabhagavatas. So my relationship with you will be revived. That's a beautiful prayer of Prithu Maharaj. So this does not happen otherwise. I mean, this does not happen in other yogas, right? Jnana yoga or Ashtanga yoga. Doesn't happen in other yogas. It happens only in Bhakti yoga. And in Bhakti yoga too, with the Sravanam. Because the potency of Sravanam is like that, from the purified souls. Because the saffron dust particles, the saffron particles of the lotus feet of the Lord are from their mouth entering into our ears. And when we say Shravanam, it is not necessarily hearing through this mortal ear, but all the sound vibration that is preserved in the literature, all the vaku that is present in the literature is considered Shravanam too. So when we receive all that transcendental information, the teachings that are present in the scriptures from the pure devotees, when we receive them in a submissive mood, then that can revive our relationship with Bhagavan. Okay. That's a wonderful one. And so now that the effects of Sravanam, since we have so many wonderful effects, very potent, powerful effects with Sravanam, what would one feel about this? They would want to have million ears. At least Prithu Maharaj said that he would like to have millions of ears to hear the Harikatha. Right? Vidatsva karnayutam esha me varaha. Vidatsva millions karnayutam ears. Esha, O Lord, me varaha. Please give me. Why? Why do you want millions of ears, Prithu Maharaj? Because na yatra yusma charanambuja savaha mahattamantar hridayan mukhachyato. Again, mahattamantar hridayan mukhachyato. Because I want to hear about you from the Mahatta people, from the great souls. Those words that come from their hridayan, antar hridayan, the words that come from their core of their heart, right? That come from their lotus mouth. I want to hear them, and that's why I need millions of ears, because it is so blissful. That's what Prithu Maharaj is saying. Yeah. Na kamaye natha tadapi aham kvachin na yatra yusma charanambuja savaha mahattamantar hridayan mukhachyutam vidatsva karnayutamesha me varaha. That's a prayer of Prithu Maharaj. And he was really strong. Prithu Maharaj was really strong. He's like, if one is not interested in hearing, then he's no better than an animal. So Prithu Maharaj was pretty hard and very clear that if somebody is not utilizing human life to hear about the glories of the Lord and revive the relationship with Lord, then that life is equal to an animal life. Kadam gunagno virameda vinapashu Shririyat pravare gunasangrahechaya. Right, when Lakshmi Devi herself is hearing. So that person who is not interested to hear is vinapashu. It's like an animal. So that's again the potency of hearing. And if it's not utilized, if a human life is not utilized for that, it's equal to animal life, according to Prithu Maharaj. Okay, the final one is, now that we heard all these wonderful effects of Sravanam, the message that is given to us from Bhagavatam, from the four Kumaras, they say, don't associate with material people and mold your life to drink Krishna Katha to an extent that you find no peace if you don't drink Krishna Katha. So mold your life in such a way that you find no peace if you don't hear Krishna Katha. Vivikta ruchya paritosha atmani vina harir guna piyusha panat. Vina harir guna piyusha panat. Vina. Without harir guna piyusha panat. Without drinking the wonderful qualities, guna of Hari, vivikta ruchya paritosha atmani. You vivikta ruchya, all the disgusting desires in the material life, they are all gone when you drink the gunas of Lord Hari. So mold your life in a way that you do not find peace if you don't drink the gunas of Lord Hari. Because drinking the gunas of Lord Hari, paritosha atmani, brings that, enlivens the inner self, the soul, and displaces, removes any disgusting material desires one may have. So mold your life so you don't find the peace if there is no Shravanam of Harir Guna. That's the advice for us. That's the instruction for us from the four Kumaras. So these are the different wonderful effects of Shravanam, especially Shravanam from pure realized souls. So I would pause my presentation here. Thank you for hearing. Hare Krishna.